Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, we're going to show you how you can set up template level subscriptions using Meteor. Now, we have our flow router going, and we have our individual templates for our recipe book. Now, we want to set up a subscription so that we're only subscribing to the recipes that we need when we're on the recipe book page. So let's get going on that right now. Okay, so in the last video, we set up our partials, we are iterating over our recipes, and we have each one of our recipes here. Now what we want to do is we want to actually have these recipes being subscribed at the template level instead of at just sort of this generic client level like what we have right now. If you head to recipes.js in our client's recipes, you can see we just have this really sort of blanket meteor.subscribe recipes outside of anything but inside of the client code. Let's go ahead and comment this out for a second. We save this. Head back to our HTML, and upon refresh, you're going to see all of our recipes go away. Because we're no longer subscribing to the data that's being published, there is no data essentially. So subscriptions are an important part of performance in your application because you want to only subscribe and publish what you need to be using at that given time. For instance, if you were to have a site with like 10,000 recipes over maybe 100 different users, right? You would only want the current user's recipes to ever make it to the front end code. So you would only want to publish the current user's recipes and things like that. So subscription management is an important part of having a performative application. So we're going to be doing optimizations as we go. And one of these optimizations is going to be using template level subscriptions. This sort of keeps the subscribe at the template itself. Once the template's loaded, then we're going to subscribe to the correct data. So one thing we want to do is in our recipes client file, we want to say template.recipes.onCreated. So the first time we're seeing onCreated, what we can have in here is now a function like so. And now inside of here, what we want to do is set up this auto run. So we can say first var self is equal to this. Okay. Now we want to say self dot auto run. Now we want to say inside of a function here. Now, don't worry about the self.auto-run. Essentially what this is going to do is unsubscribe us from any sort of old subscriptions. That way, maybe in the future, once we're on a specific recipe with an ID that we're getting from a URL, when we go to the next recipe, we're not still subscribed to the previous one. Okay, so we can now say self.subscribe. Now we can subscribe to our recipes here. So we can say recipes. And of course I need to make sure I spell things correctly. Okay, so recipes in self.subscribe. Now if we head back to our page, you'll see that we once again have all of our recipes being added. So this is really super great. They all just showed up here, no big deal. And we're now subscribing to this at the template level. That way, if we want to reuse this template ever, right? If we ever want to reuse the recipes template anywhere else, that subscription is not going to be tied to the route. And it's not going to be tied to anything but the template itself. Okay, so now that we have our template level subscription set up, let's go ahead and delete this. Commented out code is no good. And let's head to our recipes.html. We now have access to something that's pretty cool. What we can now say is bracket bracket if template dot subscriptions and ready in camel case here. So if template dot subscriptions ready, make sure there are no spelling errors there. We can now wrap this entire section in an if, or we can actually wrap in just the looping recipe. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So we can put these inside of the section here. That way we can still maintain the styles of this. Okay. So we are now iterating over those. What's cool is that you don't have to end this if here. You can say else, and then we can just simply output in a paragraph. Let's just simply say loading. Okay. Now we can end this with an if, like so. So now what we're going to get is, while this is loading our recipes, it's going to say loading, and then once they're loaded, it's going to then replace that data. Now the thing is here is that this information is going to load pretty quickly. One, we're on a local host, a local database, and there's not a ton of data, so we might not even see that loading text in here at all. However, it's a nice thing to have. Maybe you could throw like a spinner or some other loading animation or anything like that. It's sort of common practice if you have seen sites that are loading a large amount of data. So we now have our subscriptions set up on the template. We're using if templates.subscriptions ready to make sure our content is loaded, and we are good to go here. So in the next video, we're going to show you how you can get data out of the URL parameters, and that we can use that to land on a very specific recipe's individual page. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video or hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. I love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.